Folks, I do apologize for those of you standing in the back. There's 3-4 seats up front here if you want those, and I think they're bringing some more chairs in. So I apologize that you're having to stand. Now, we've heard from Marvin about establishment. We've got a good stand. We've heard from Scott on producing, so we have got a high yield out there. Now we move into phase number 3, and that's the harvest phase. And our overall goal during this harvest phase is quality. Now, if we think about that, I want to tell you that I'm not Dan Undersander. I got about the same amount of hair that he has, but I'm not him. Dan has been traveling more this year than any year of his career. He and Marvin and I just did a conference out in Denver a few weeks ago, and talking to Dan, I think that was his made 7 trips to Asia this year. He prepared the paper. It's in your proceedings, but he asked me this morning to express his regrets and tell you that he just not because of sickness, but because of other circumstances, could not make it and be with us. So he asked me to make a few comments. And the first question I guess I want to ask as we deal with this, I look out at this audience and I see some of the most talented forage people in this country. And if we had time to just go around in a discussion and ask the question, what is forage quality? What does forage quality mean to you? I'm satisfied we would not get just one answer, because some of you would define forage quality in a lot of different ways. Some of you would use terms like this. You would say, well, hay quality, good hay is green, leafy, soft, pleasant odor, weed-free, mold-free, dust-free, free of foreign material. All of those things are important. Others would say, well, I want to know more specific about that. I want to know something about the protein. I want to know something about the fiber and digestibility. I want to know something about relative feed value or even relative forage quality. And then dairy interest, you'd say, I want to know about net energy. And all of those are extremely important. Others would reduce it down even further, especially in the marketing area. And you would talk about, I want to know specifically what the protein and fiber is, because I can use that to measure that bottom line that I can use to communicate about hay if I'm in Florida and buying hay from Kentucky, because I could talk about either relative feed value or relative forage quality, and all of those are important, and we use them. So when I come back, and I want to start this discussion talking about forage quality with my definition that I want to start with. I cannot adequately define forage quality, and when I do, I must give that animal factor in there, otherwise I fall short of a definition. So my working definition to begin this morning is those factors that make it desirable as a livestock feed. A very layman definition, but I'll ask you the question. If it's mine and your job today to feed each one of those groups of animals on the screen. Now, question 1, do they need the same amount of forage today? And the bigger question, do they need the same quality? And your answer to both of those is no. Because it takes one level of quality to maintain a dry, pregnant beef cow, or that bison, or that goat. It takes another level of quality to put a lot of milk in the tank every day, or to produce 3 pounds a day gain on stockers. So when we keep that in mind, Dan expressed it like this. If you start along the bottom of that axis, look at a relative forage quality of 100. That's equal to full bloom alfalfa. As you move across that bottom line, you're getting higher and higher quality. You can see that lower end of that scale will meet the needs of some dry cows or certain age group heifers. But as we move up that chart and we get into that high producing dairy cow, we can't meet that need with that level of quality. We've got to have a better quality feed. If we look at that from the standpoint of the value of milk as it relates, daily value of that as it relates to quality, this is one reason why dairymen are willing to pay higher price for higher quality. It is reflected in their profitability. Look at that regardless of how you measure it. In this case, looking at average or acid detergent fiber, the higher the quality, the lower the number, the more profit we make per cow. Looking at it from the standpoint of livestock, of beef cattle, average daily gains. We're going to have so much gain every day just to take care of maintenance, and only that gain beyond that do we have the capability of making money with. So if you look at that line changes as far as profit once we go up there and we start getting higher and higher quality forage. So quality, regardless of what category of animals, is extremely important. What are the factors that affect quality? Well, there's a whole bunch of those that do impact the quality of the feed that we're feeding back home, or the quality of the pasture when we turn animals into it. They're not all equal in importance. If we think about that, plant species and varieties certainly can play a role. Soil and fertility, Scott just talked to us about that. Pest, anything that will eat the leaves off of those plants is going to drastically lower forage quality. The growing conditions, how well they're growing. And then also the season of the year, the time of day impacts it, the stage of maturity, harvesting and handling conditions, and certainly a big factor is that of weather. Now if we think about those, two of those that we have some control over are the species that we grow and the stage of maturity. And I don't have time to talk about the others, but let me just make a few comments on this because we have the opportunity in our species and variety selection to impact the potential quality. And if you think about that in general, and this is not always true, but in general, when you put categories together, you'll find that when we compare things at the same stage, legumes are usually higher than grasses in quality. When you go farther, cool season are usually higher than warm season. And then if you look farther, annuals are usually higher than perennials. But now you can take any category and make one change, and you can change that because the single most important factor impacting forage quality, in my opinion, is simply plant maturity. How old that plant is when we consume it. That will probably directly relate to quality in our barns across this country or in our pastures after it starts growing more than any other single factor. Now this is the bar, folks. This is where we set the quality bar, whether we're grazing or cutting it for any kind of stored feed. It will go down from that day forward. So our challenge is to start at a very high level. If we start at this level, we have the potential at the bottom line, the end result, to have a high quality product. However, if we start at this level, then our quality product doesn't have a high potential. Now, this slide actually is a Kentucky slide. I'm embarrassed. It was taken years ago. It never happens now. But this was fescue hay. Fescue hay cut on the 4th of July. A little late tobacco crop that year, but not only is the quality low, but he's also lost another cutting. But if you want to produce a product like this is the harvest schedule I would recommend. Makes an excellent turf, kind of hard to mow, but it makes an excellent turf. Here's the relationship, folks. This applies to all forage plants, but it does not apply to people. Forage plants, the younger it is, the better. People, I'm learning more every day. The older we are, the better we are. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands of how many's buying into that. But anyway, look at a legume, look at a grass, and you start off and you measure anything you want relative to quality. And as that plant ages, quality is going to decline. Here's what traps a lot of us up, and that's that yellow line, and that's the yield. A lot of us say, I can't cut it that quick because I need more yield. I need more bales. I need more loads of silage. I want to make sure I can carry more animals out there for putting in. Well, here's another relationship that should impact that. Yes, we can let it stay out there longer and get yield, but what kind of yield are we getting? Good stuff or bad stuff? Certainly, total yield is going up, but what's contributing to that total yield? It's the stems. Stems are much lower quality than what we really want, the leaves. We want the stems to hold that leaf on until we get it to the animal. Now, if you look at it from the standpoint of quality as measured by digestibility, you can see quality is declining. But now look what happens to leaves. They're not following that same pattern as a total yield or stem yield. So our challenge is to optimize those leaves, to maximize the number of leaves, the number of a higher quality product that we put into our animals. Dan put this data together and looked at just the drop per day beyond the bud stage on alfalfa, and you can see we're losing 0.25% protein every day. Losing neutral detergent fiber, 0.4, and fiber digestibility is dropping by 0.4. Fiber's increasing, but then the bottom line, from an economic standpoint, over the years, about 3.6 relative forage quality points per day, and I'll give you something in a minute that shows you the value of each forage quality point. Looking at it from animal performance, from data from here in Tennessee, with orchard grass, which is a high quality grass, high quality potential grass, if we look at that, harvested in the boot stage, the full head or the milk stage, there's only about 25 days difference in that, but look at the impact it makes. Look from the standpoint of protein content, it dropped in half, from 18% down to 9%. But the bottom line, the acid test of forage quality, how did the animals perform on it? And if you look at it, they gain 2 pounds a day on the high-quality early cut boot stage. On the milk stage, they just gained about 4/10 of a pound. So it's not how many bales that we get off, it's what each bale will do when we get it to an animal. If you look at it from a standpoint of Bermuda grass, there's a lot of it in this state. If you think about that, this is a study out of Georgia where they cut Bermuda grass at 4, 8, and 13-week intervals. Now, some of you from the South, and Dennis could comment on this, is which one of those is most common on farms. But if you look at that, TDN dropped from 55 to 45, but the acid test, the bottom line of animal performance, they gained 1.2 pounds. That's phenomenal on Bermuda grass when it was cut 4 weeks. Shows you that relationship of age, plant maturity, and quality. Even at 8 weeks, they still gained almost a pound a day, 8/10. But look what happened on that old cut 13-week material. They didn't even maintain their weight. They just basically didn't do anything on it. Now, if you look at this from the standpoint as the premiums paid in Wisconsin, and they've been selling quality-tested hay for many, many years there. But if you look at the premiums paid, I think this is about a 26 or 27-year database that Dan's put together. Looking at it from relative feed value, you can see as dairymen, primarily dairymen, I'm sure some beef as well, but as dairymen go to the auction and bid, they're willing to bid a much higher price on a higher quality product because they know from their experience that higher quality product is going to put more milk in the tank every day. How much is that going to be worth? This is varied from $1.20 per relative feed value point all the way down to 70-something depending on the year. But in general, over that long database point, each relative feed value point has been worth about 85 cents premium for the producer. So the bottom line, as I see, as we reduce this thing down to quality, leaves are important, stage of maturity are important. Our challenge is to save those during that harvesting process, regardless of where we're putting it up as hay, baleage, silage, or we're turning cattle in there. Convert those high-quality products into an animal product that we can sell. Now, Dan probably had a whole lot more he would like to talk to you about, but since he gave me permission to talk about it, those are the key points that I wanted to make about harvesting for quality. So if we take a pause here, and we've talked about 3 of the fundamental important principles, and we talked about 3 major goals, we're ready now to move to that next one, because everything we've talked about is in vain if we don't market that product and be able to be sustainable and make some kind of a profit. We're going to do this. We've done it several different ways over the years as we've addressed these topics. Wanted to do it differently today, and I called on 4 outstanding forage producers, 4 leaders within the forage industry, 4 people who are either present board members of AFGC or they are past board members of AFGC, 4 people that represent distinctly different farming operations. I've asked each one of them to come and share a few comments with us, a little overview, and then I'm going to ask the panel to reassemble and we'll begin a discussion on that. And I've challenged them to try to keep their presentation to 5 to 7 minutes, and I know that would be a nerve-wracking experience if I had to do that. I've also told them another important thing that I want you to know. Repetition is all important. Repetition is all right. If every one of them get up here and tell you their top 5 practices that consistently make their money, that's okay. I want you to pay attention to them. But I've asked them to address that question. What, over your career in your particular operation, are the 5 most important fundamental practices, forage practices on your farm that has consistently made you money? And in order to do that, we want to address that from a commercial hay standpoint. We're going to address it from a beef cattle standpoint, from a dairy, and then from small ruminants. And we're going to begin in Kentucky with Mr. Clayton Geralds. I'm not going to give you a lot of background on these because you know these folks, and I don't want to steal any of their thunder. But Clayton's going to come and tell you about his operation in Hart County, Kentucky.